What you got, Drew?
So I told you yesterday that I wanted to bring up this period of history that I think it's having a lingering effect on everybody, partly because it's sort of hidden from view. And I got exposed to it reading the Ulysses S. Grant biography by Ron Chernow. And it is really the post-Civil War period, like the 10 years after the Civil War, when I don't know if you know how horrible Reconstruction was. I mean,
no.
African-American citizens were literally slaughtered every day all over the South in these gigantic sort of spasms of violence, and especially when it came to keeping them out of the voter's box and things like that. And Ulysses S. Grant, there was still warfare going on for years after Appomattox, where Grant had to send down troops constantly to protect black people from the Southern, which essentially vigilante, sort of guerrilla groups. The KKK started. I
saw Django Unchained.
No.
I know the lay of the land.
No, this is long after. The KKK was not an anti-racist group. It was a military guerrilla group to fight to keep the war going. It just they took it out on the black because they were going into office now, and they were citizens, and they were Republicans. They were all Republicans, and these guys were all Democrats. And it was a period of such violence. Frederick Douglass, the famous African American.
My three sons.
He said, look, he goes, we gave up the lash for a shotgun. He goes, the lash was better. Frederick Douglass saying this. Right. That's how bad things got. And this went on for a decade where people were not safe walking in the streets. I think that period was so traumatic and so shaming to us as a country that its echoes are still with us and we don't realize it. I think
I would be down with your findings if we didn't have long periods of sort of less tension, less strife, and less turmoil.
I would argue the Jim Crow laws were the outcome of all that when the Democrats took back over the South and Republicans were essentially just murdered, run out of town. But how intergenerational trauma is transmitted across generations, right? It's not like it's because there's a peaceful well-being time. The trauma is still transmitted through for several more generations. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look.
How's this? What happened to Charlize Theron?
Well, that's what I want to know. I want to know what she was exposed to and who said something or what that was.
She turns on the news.
Maybe that's your theory. That's your theory.
My theory.
No. You may be right.
She wasn't thinking this way 10 years ago in this country.
I'm just wondering what she saw or felt or who said something to her. I'm wondering what that was. I'd love to know. That's all I'm saying. If it's more than the news, we're both making assumptions. I'm assuming maybe it's more than the news. You're assuming it's exclusively the news.
No,
I get what you're saying.
She dealt with things growing up, for sure,
in South Africa.
I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yes, but why does she say it's getting worse in this country? Read the line.
We can't deny it. I wouldn't travel certain areas if this continues. That's
Drew, read the top line of her statement, please. The one that's at the top.
It's much more alive and well than people thought.
Okay.
Not that it's getting worse. It's just always been around. It's worse than you thought. Can't deny it.
Much more alive and well
than we thought.
I would argue that if you say much more alive and well, you're basically saying, and I know you said than we thought, but much more alive and well means it's on the move or it's much more prevalent than we think. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, and has always been, is what she's saying.
Well, I think people didn't think that way 10 years ago, and she didn't think that way 10 years ago. When you say much more alive and well than we thought, you're semantically correct, I guess, sort of technically, but the feeling in the statement is saying it's on the rise. That's
she's
what
either
you're saying.
She's either saying it's on the rise, or I had no idea and I didn't think about it, and it's alive and well. It had more than I thought.
She's saying you thought this thing was tamped down. Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, it's here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's which is kind of we're saying the same thing, which is it's here, it's on the rise.
Yeah.
All right.
It's on the move.
Thank you.
But it's
where do you think she learned that?
I'm just so curious. I'm so curious.
So curious? It's called turning on the news every single night and being beaten over the head with these stories, Drew. That's where she learned it. What do you think? She watches Tucker Carlson every night, or she watches Rachel Maddow and gets hit over the head with and we have a president who's called racist every single night on every single news outlet. How would you not have this feeling? Comey gets interviewed and talks about how he's scared for the future, scared for this nation. I mean, how could you walk away with any other feeling than that if you turn on the news?
Right.
We're being crushed by it, and I don't think it's helping the collective psyche of our hot actresses.
You know how bad my mood's been lately.
I'm telling you.
Maybe that's it.
When I was talking to you about the food pyramid and getting hit over the head with that, we're now being hit over the head with this, and we're acting accordingly. All right. Now, what you talked about, Jim Crow and before and all that, of course, is a factor. But I would also,
but I think we sort of live in the notion that it's slavery. It's slavery that really is the issue. And I'm saying, no, there's a period here that was so horrible that we just sort of sponged out of the history book that really, I think, if we brought it into consciousness, might help us. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I agree, but I also agree that there are many, many groups historically throughout the world who've had horrible atrocities committed in their names.
Your people still practice a ritual every year where they romanticize something that happened in Egypt 3,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Huh? Exodus?
No, the Passover.
Oh, the Passover.
They ritualize the trauma every year. It was so traumatic that they made a ritual.
My people. You're joking.
Yeah.
But listen, it's confusing because I'm half Italian, so I'm trying to figure out what the Italians did. Thank God the Carollas never did anything. Yeah. I'm saying I think there's a more productive path to this, and convincing every black 6-year-old that there's a target on their back and we live in a racist nation and the president's out to get them is not great for their psyche. You want to talk about trauma, Drew?
Yeah.
Want to talk about traumatizing a kid?
Yeah. Listen,
feed them that line.
I am all for psychological reframing.
Because, look, the thing about Charlize Theron, if there's places you won't take your kids.
Tell us. First of all, I want to know where that is.
You want to know why she can't tell you where? Does anyone know why Charlize Theron cannot tell you where she wouldn't travel in this country? And by the way, why not, again, share it with us in case Matt and I are planning a vacation to this part of the world, or Gary's thinking about his honeymoon over there.
Hold your money.
Why do you think Charlize Theron and whoever, once they're done explaining what a racist nation we're living in, and explains that there's places aren't safe to go to and blah, 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 why do you think they never named the place? Gary?
Because they've never not gone somewhere?
That's true. They've never changed their behavior based on a racist nation. All right. They never not got on an airplane. Private jet, probably. Matt?
They don't believe what they're saying?
Another very good point. Drew? Your chance to crap on everyone's point and for me to give you a tongue lashing and then move on?
She would not have an answer if we asked her where.
Yeah. You want to know why?
She's never been there.
No.
Doesn't exist?
No. The answer to why she doesn't know where that racist place is that she couldn't take her kids, Rachel Maddow never told her. And neither did the senator that was bloviating about what a racist nation we're living in. And Maxine Waters never took a pin and put it on the map. They talked about the racist nation. They talked about Trump. They talked about the racism it's endemic and systematic and everything. But they never brought up the name of the city that you shouldn't go to. None of them, ever. So what has she got? Well, she got the message that we're living in a horrible racist nation. But she doesn't have the specifics, because guess who never talks in terms of specifics? The folks that are bloviating. See what I'm saying?
Well,
that's part of bloviating.
Yeah.
Is never. And let me explain the problem with giving an example. You know what the problem with giving an example? The second you give an example, we get to go look up statistics and crime statistics and find out there was hate crimes and that's it, and now you're screwed.
Yeah.
Better just to generally bloviate.
Well, it's funny. Again, I told you Ryan Holiday. Have we aired the Ryan Holiday podcast yet, Gary? Maybe. He was saying that all the bloviating and the attacks on Trump and Comey and all this stuff, that he's like a resistant bacteria. That eventually when you throw everything at everybody all the time, something emerges that's just resistant, like a bacteria that's resistant to all the antibiotics you keep throwing at it because you've just overdone it. You've overdone it, and then it's nothing. Then nothing.
Well, look, that is a
affects it.
very human. There's nothing truer than the boy who cried wolf, and if you know that story, it is human wiring, and it's the same. We're all that way. It's all, look, you can turn on Sean Hannity or you can turn on Rachel Maddow, and at the top of both their shows is like, oh, man, breaking bombshell news coming out of Washington. It's like every day. Every day there's a bombshell.
The hair is on fire.
Both sides or both. And then so now you hear breaking bombshell news, and it could be Hannity and it could be Rachel Maddow, but you're not, nothing happens.